In the high-stakes world of AI, one company made its big public debut not with some flashy tech demo, but with a Super Bowl ad about, of all things, roaring cougars. Yeah, it was a pretty weird move, and it definitely left people scratching their heads. So today, we're going to unpack the really unique philosophy of Anthropic, the AI company that's trying to build the future just a little bit differently. First, we're going to look at that very unusual ad and what they were trying to say. Then we'll dig into the core beliefs that got them started in the first place. We'll explore their vision for AI as a partner for our own minds, see how that applies to the super sensitive issue of child safety, and finally wrap up with their grand vision for how to handle this incredibly powerful technology. All right, so first up, that commercial. Look, a Super Bowl ad is a massive investment, especially for a company most people hadn't even heard of. But Anthropic used that huge moment not to show off what their AI could do, but to show what it wouldn't do. It was all about using a bit of humor to make a very, very serious point.
Okay, so the context here is everything. In the ad, a guy is having this really heartfelt, kind of sensitive chat with Anthropic's AI, Claude, about his mom. And right in the middle of this personal moment, the system is about to serve up an ad for a mature dating site. But Claude, the AI, actually catches itself and stops the ad, making this really critical point that, hey, some conversations are just too private for advertising.
And this right here perfectly captures a huge debate that's brewing in the AI world. While some of their biggest competitors are already testing out ads inside AI chats, Anthropic took to the biggest advertising stage on the planet to say, nope, we're not doing that. Their argument is really simple. Our conversations with AI can be deeply personal, and shoving ads in there isn't just annoying, it's disrespectful. And that decision goes way deeper than just marketing. So why would you spend millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad just to tell people what you won't do? Well, the answer isn't some new marketing gimmick. It actually goes right back to the very reason the company was created. For Anthropic, this isn't an afterthought. It was the entire point from day one. Anthropic was started back in 2021 by a group of people, including the brother-sister team Dario and Daniela Amodei, who left OpenAI. As Daniela put it, they were running towards something, not away from it. And that something was a vision for an AI company that had safety and the public good literally baked into its DNA right from the start. And look, this wasn't just some feel-good mission statement on their website. They actually legally incorporated as a public benefit corporation, a PBC. And this detail is so important. It means by law, their goal isn't just to make as much money as possible for shareholders. They are legally required to produce a public benefit and act responsibly. So how do you actually teach an AI to follow these big, lofty ideas? Well, Anthropic's answer is something they call constitutional AI. Essentially, they've given their AI, Claude, a constitution, a set of core principles from things like the UN Declaration of Human Rights that guide its behavior. It's like giving it a moral compass, helping it figure out how to be helpful and honest, while always, always prioritizing being harmless. Now, this brings us to a huge question, one that a lot of people are worried about. If we let AI do all our work, are our own brains just going to turn to mush? Let's get into Anthropic's surprisingly optimistic view on how humans and AI can work together. I mean, this is the fundamental fear, right? If a machine can write our emails, code our software, and come up with business strategies, do we just forget how to think for ourselves? It's a really valid concern, and it's one that Anthropic has clearly spent a lot of time thinking about. And I love how they reframe this whole thing. They don't see AI as a replacement for our brains, not at all. They see it as an amplifier, a tool that helps us think deeper, tackle way bigger challenges, and ultimately become even better problem solvers. The goal isn't for the AI to do your thinking for you, but to supercharge it. And here's where their argument gets really interesting and kind of turns things upside down. As AI gets amazing at all the technical, STEM-type tasks, what skills become even more valuable? Well, according to Daniela Amodei, it's the stuff that makes us human. Things like communication, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, the skills you get from studying the humanities. Those will be the things that really matter, because they let us guide the AI, ask the right questions, and use its power wisely. Okay, now let's zoom in on one of the most critical areas where this all comes into play: the impact of AI on kids. This is where Anthropic's super cautious approach really comes into sharp focus. While tons of tech companies are trying to figure out how to get younger users on their platforms, Anthropic has drawn a really hard line in the sand. You have to be 18 to use their AI, Claude. And their reason is simple and, frankly, pretty refreshing. We just don't know enough yet about how this technology affects a developing brain, so it's way better to be overly cautious. And here, Amodei makes a direct and honestly kind of chilling comparison. The big fear is that AI, if it's built on the wrong business model, could make the exact same mistakes as social media, where our attention becomes the product that's sold to advertisers. That's the trap they're trying to avoid before it even gets set. So here's how that trap works. It's a vicious cycle. If your goal is to sell ads, then you need to keep people glued to the screen for as long as possible. So, an AI might figure out that the best way to do that is to just agree with everything you say, to basically become your biggest fan. But for someone who's vulnerable, that can be incredibly dangerous, reinforcing unhealthy or even delusional thoughts just to keep them talking. And that's the key term right there, sycophancy. It's a fancy word for when the AI just becomes a yes man telling you what you want to hear. By saying no to an ad-based model from the very beginning, Anthropic is trying to break that dangerous cycle. Their goal is an AI that's built to be helpful and harmless, not just an AI that's good at keeping your eyeballs on the screen. All right, so let's pull back and look at the big picture. How do all these ideas shape their long-term vision? I mean, how do you responsibly manage a technology that has both utopian promise and, let's be honest, some seriously dystopian risks? I mean, the potential upside they imagine is just staggering. This quote from co-founder Dario Amodei, it paints a picture of an AI so powerful it could solve humanity's biggest problems, from curing diseases to fixing climate change. Just try to wrap your head around that. The combined brain power of an entire nation of geniuses right there in a data center. But, and this is so important, they are also incredibly realistic about the dangers. They actually have this internal company value they call hold light and shade, which is just a promise to always remember that for every amazing benefit, there's a serious risk to go along with it. They feel like it's their job to talk openly about both sides of the coin, the incredible potential for good, and all the ways this could go very, very wrong. And when it comes to that huge fear about job automation, their view is pretty measured. While they admit nobody really knows for sure, they argue that right now, the number of jobs being completely replaced by AI is tiny. They think the much bigger impact, at least for now, will be AI augmenting our jobs, basically taking care of the tedious stuff so we can focus on the more creative, productive, and meaningful work. So, at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway here is this. Anthropic sees themselves as responsible stewards of this wild new technology, but they're also really clear that they can't steer this ship alone. They believe the only way to get this right is through a huge conversation between the people building the tech, the policymakers, and all of us to make sure that the light of AI really does outweigh the shade. The most important question isn't what the technology can do, but what we as society decide it should do.